Hello, it is Thursday, December 8th. Or if you're joining us from Australia, it is Friday, December 9th. So TGIF to you, hey? Ah, we are here. We are gathered here to discuss tonight episode 7 and 8 of the Challenge Australia, a season that we have been enjoying very much, but it appears Australia has not been loving it quite as much as us. But we're still excited to talk about it. Hopefully, hopefully we'll have some other people with us along the way. So let's get into it. Let's kick this thing off. Alrighty, here we are. My name is John Dunphy. I am joined, as always, by my very best mates, Mr. Kyle Petty and Miss Gina Morgino. And we are here to discuss the Challenge Australia. Now, if you want to check us out on social media, you can do so at StratChatPod. Check us out on Twitter, on Instagram, all that. Or check out our website, StratChatPod.com. All right? Now, I'm excited to get into this episode. We're getting closer and closer to the final. We opened up on episode 7. Ryan and Sugar were just eliminated. I was sad in particular to see Sugar go because I like her, and I was familiar with her outside of this game. So from her fighting experience. So yeah.
Oh wow.
Fun fact. Yeah, they were eliminated, Ryan and Sugar, by their allies, Emily and Grant. The four of them were really the only ones left, the only resistance to this domination of the Batchy crew that has just been running through this whole game. So Ryan and Sugar left. That meant that Emily and Grant were all alone in there, and they sure felt super alone. I know Marley was kind of trying to cheer Emily up a little bit because he was the one now that was paired with Emily. So he automatically has a target on his back because he's not part of the Batchy crew. He comes from Big Brother. Emily, also not part of the Batchy crew, and Emily is a big target of the Batchy crew. Now, Marley is very well liked in the house, though. But when you're attached to one of these people that the Batchy crew is targeting, you're collateral damage.
Sorry.
Yeah. But Marley is trying to be positive here to start off with. He's saying, listen, if we win this competition, we can decide who goes in, and maybe we can kind of shift things here and kind of shake things up. But Batchy crew, not concerned with any of this. They decide to have a nice time out on the slip and slide, out on the yard. Kieran is having some trouble at home, some relationship problems. His girlfriend found out about his early season hookup in the shower with Audrey. Don't worry, everything works out with them. They're still gonna try it. They're still gonna make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry. In case you were concerned about that, I just think it's funny that this has happened because Kieran's one of my people, right? Do you have your list in front of you, Gina?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, he's one of yours.
He's one of my people, and I feel like I remember in the beginning of the season when we were doing our little rundowns, all I could find about Kieran online was that he was described as this fuck boy that
Yep.
was just a total screw up. But coming into the show, he wanted to change his image, and I feel like now, he's been a decent competitor, but of course, the majority of the focus on him has been this continued behavior by him.
Because the first thing he did when he got there was hook up with somebody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah.
And that's what, even watching, the continuation of this conversation between him and his girlfriend or whatever, it's it wasn't like they were separated for such a long time and he had, this clouded judgment where, he had, needs that were being met. The first thing he did when he got there was hook up with someone.
Yeah.
It's true. It's very true.
The first thing he did.
I just feel bad for this girl that this has to play out publicly. This is nobody's business. We shouldn't even be we shouldn't even know about this.
It's so embarrassing for her.
It's embarrassing for everybody.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. But yeah, those were the only notes that I had for prior to the daily challenge in this episode. You guys have anything else you want to any
No.
topics you'd like to broach? Okay,
Not
so let's
much
get
going
into
on.
this. Let's get into this daily challenge. I like this. This was pretty interesting. They show up. They're outside on this looks like a big racetrack, some kind of racetrack, and they're there and they see this huge bus just come barreling down, going through all these different obstacles. And Bryony tells us that this competition is called Runaway Ride. You may have heard of a runaway bride, but this is a runaway ride. Okay. Now, so here's what we're doing in this competition, right? The players are inside this bus, which is driving all over the place like crazy. It's going up on, dirt hills. There's cars driving towards this that it now has to swerve around. All this crazy stuff going on. This bus is going nuts, okay? The players are inside of this bus, which is filled with balls. Okay? And these balls, they have all sorts of different markings on them. Now, these markings, they're important, okay? They're very important. I want you to know that. Because outside of the bus, along the racetrack, there are these answer keys, right? And they display these balls that have these different markings, and it shows you which order you need to be stacking these balls in, okay? Now, the goal here is to get as many balls correctly in the fastest time possible. And I did bring some visual aids with me because I thought this was kind of a weird one to like sort of describe. So let's take a look. This is what the inside of the bus looked like.
You two are ridiculous. I'm sorry.
What do you mean? What's wrong? What's wrong? I'm trying to be very clear,
Oh my god.
I am reenacting the challenge. What do you want from me?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I thought we did a good job. But I wanted to also paint a nice picture, So here is what the inside of this bus looked like that each Picasso. Of the players were in here. This is what it looked like. So you can see the balls. They have these different colors. Some of them are yellow. Some have purple. Some have pink. Some have blue. Right. So they were just in this bus driving around, getting thrown all over the place. They had to look for. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. To and fro also, not just to, but also fro, right? Always fro. And as they went around this racetrack, they had to look for these answer keys. Okay, so if you see, these balls, they have the different markings on it that correspond to the balls that are inside the bus. They have to look for these.
Hold on.
What's that?
This is ridiculous, by the way. I don't even understand how they saw this. Mm-hmm. If you're bopping around these balls that size, flying all over the place, and the way that this bus was careening down the lane, like, how did you see put that back up, please? Do you see how small these are and how light that? Look at that light blue on the top. Look at those pluses on the bottom. Isn't that not ridiculous? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it's true. This was a very difficult task, and so they had to go through these balls though, looking for these answer keys, and then do something like this. Okay, they had to get them in there, and they had to try to get it as correct as possible. I'd be curious to see, like, because they only told us at the end of this who the top three were and who got the most correct balls in the fastest time. They didn't say that anybody got it completely correct or anything.
Who's getting that completely correct?
Well, that's right. I totally agree. But I would have been interested to see, like, if Bryony told us, like, oh, out of the 10 balls, you got 8 correct, something like that. I would have been nice to see it because for all we know, the team that won got like 2 balls right.
Yeah.
No one else got anything,
Right.
But, like,
yeah.
So,
and maybe that's why. Maybe that's why.
Maybe that is why.
Because barely anyone got anything right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, no one saw anything. It was dumb luck of what ones they were throwing.
Maybe nobody got anything right and we just picked a winner.
Right. But I at least thought this was an entertaining one to watch. Did you guys at least like this competition?
It was very fun.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Very fun. I agree.
And it was kind of high drama when Kiki was in there, but even though it didn't give us anything.
Right.
But I thought we were going to, I was super concerned about her back. Well, we keep hearing about how bad her back is. Mm-hmm. And now she's being thrown to and fro, landing on these balls, she's getting thrown up against the wall. I thought that was going to turn into something, and it, it proved fruitless, but still dramatic for me. Still dramatic.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I thought this was a lot of fun. And this, I think, was a new one, right? We haven't seen this one on another challenge, right?
No,
because we've gotten a lot of repeats between, between Challenge USA, Challenge 38, Ride or Dies on MTV, and then now Challenge Australia. I feel like we've seen a lot of repeats, which has been fun, honestly. But this one, I feel like we haven't seen at all. So,
right.
And at the end of the competition, Bryony informed us that the top 3 teams in this competition were Marley and Emily, Grant and Brooke J, and Kieran and Brooke B. And right away, I felt like, wow, this could be big, because the 2 outsiders in there are in the top 3, Emily and Grant. What are you laughing at over there? What's going on?
He's laughing at me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
I see you both just laughing, and I'm like, I'm not saying anything funny.
It is absolutely not you. There was something beeping or something.
I heard the beeping too
in the background. A vacuum. I didn't know what it was, but I thought it was in my house.
I saw Kyle looking around the room, and I just kind of quietly muted my microphone.
Yeah, and I just kept looking around. I said, "What is that?" And I'm like, "What is Tommy doing?" I said, "What is that sound?" And then I saw her mute herself, and I was like, "Oh, it was her." And that's all. That's all it was. But I thought I tried to do it
so quietly, and I saw Kyle laughing. I was like, "No, I was so inconspicuous about it. Please stop laughing at me."
I'm literally just like talking, and I see both of you laughing, and I'm like, did I say something stupid?
I'm sorry.
That's what it makes me feel like.
I thought I was going crazy.
Also,
I know,
but I was like, why would beeping make them laugh? So okay. But anyway, the top 3 teams. This was a big moment, I thought, was Marley and Emily, and Grant and Brooke J. And the reason I thought this was big was because the 2 outsiders in Emily and Grant were in the top 3. And I figured, wow, if one of them wins, they might actually make it through this. And maybe they could get out some of these batchy people, and we're close enough to the final that maybe, the 2 of them could make it. But Bryony informed us that the winning team was Kieran and Brooke B. So Emily and Grant were close, but no cigar. Yeah. That was tough. What did you guys have that similar feeling at all about Grant and Emily in this? My heart was beating, hoping that one of them would pull this out, because I'm just so I like the Batchy Crew people, at least most of them, but I'm honestly just so I feel like every week that's what it is. It's the Batchy Crew getting another win. Yeah, it just feels like the Batchy Crew getting another win and sending out one of their targets, and that's all.
Nobody
it's been
likes to watch a steamroll.
Yeah.
No, but I was happy for Brooke B, because I don't know. I feel like there was some kind of validation here. Grant really dogged her down there. I agree. In the arena, and that was so embarrassing. So I don't know. I did like that.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that.
Hi, DM Rocks.
What's up, DM Rocks?
Says Emily and Ryan are dating now. Made it official on Instagram.
Interesting.
Wow. That's very interesting.
We did see them. We saw them getting close in the house, right? I remember them playing pool together or something, right? Recently. Interesting. Thanks for the info, DMs. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Very, very nice. Now the last place team here was Connor and Kiki. All right. So that's the thing too. What's funny about this is that there are so few people outside of the Batchy Alliance left that it's pretty much guaranteed that one of them is going to be an elimination. So that was at least some saving grace for Emily and Grant, is that okay, at the very least, there's a good chance that if we win this elimination, we'll come back in and still have a fighting chance. But, so here, Kieran and Brooke B, they went back to the house, they had a little deliberation. Kieran and Brooke B as the winners, they had a little meeting with Connor and Kiki as the last place team. And it was funny. I mean, obviously, we'll get to it. We know how this episode turns out. But in this deliberation, I immediately had a little bit of a chuckle because Connor went in there. I know he's had some wins, and I've actually defended him at times because for a lot of this season, everybody in there was calling him the weakest, saying that he's so shifty and shady and sneaky. But I thought it was funny because Connor went in there so confident, kind of just like, I don't like Emily. I want to go in there. I want to take her out. Kiki was on board with this. And I just felt like, they seem very confident about going in there and competing against an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah. I want to take out Emily. And it's like, listen, you played on MasterChef. Like, calm down. Like, let's calm down. She's an Olympian.
Yeah.
Right.
Gold
I thought it was just weird.
Medalist.
Right. Like, I know that, like, Emily is a big target. So if you want to go in there and say, like, hey, like, Kieran and Brooke B, if you want to put Emily in, we understand it. She's a big target. So, we feel like we do have a chance depending on the elimination. But the fact that they both went in there just like, put Emily in, we'll take her out. It's like, I was like, whoa.
As if they haven't seen her come back from what, 4 before this? 3?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so I thought this was weird too, because Kieran, Brooke B, Connor, and Kiki, it wasn't just like Kieran and Brooke B, like the winners, so they're the decision makers. They wanted to go and give Marley especially a heads up. They also gave Emily a heads up, but Marley especially, because they all do like Marley. But I thought it was weird that, like, I don't know if you guys noticed this, Kieran, Brooke B, Connor, and Kiki, as like a group, were going to Marley to like give him a heads up that, like, hey, you're going into elimination. And I'm like, why is the losing team there to be like, hey, sorry, we're picking you for elimination?
Yeah.
That was very strange to me.
Yeah.
But Marley was pissed, obviously. Emily was very upset. I felt really bad for her. There was this scene, and we didn't actually get to see it because it was a closed door. It was Emily and Grant in the bathroom, and you could just hear how upset Emily was that, like, why is it always me? Like, no one else is going into elimination. I'm being put into elimination after elimination. You could hear how, like, emotional she was. And I just felt so bad for her. Like, she doesn't seem like a bad person to me at all. She's a great competitor, and she's just been, like, picked on. I don't know if that's even the best term to use, but, like, I don't know. It seems like she's been made out to be this huge enemy by this Batchy crew.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I don't really know that. I don't really know that that's so. I don't think she's 100% been treated great, but I also don't think it's all as bad as she's making it out to be. Unfortunately, in a game like this, you are going to be target number 1. All right, you're an Olympian. Of course, they don't want to run a final with you. I mean, like, just like if you're playing with a previous winner of Big Brother, you're the first one they want out. They don't want you to get too far. Like, it's just the nature of the game, unfortunately. That's just what it is. Now, there have been other situations where I feel like Emily was trying to get herself out of, like, sticky situations, like get herself out of an elimination and kind of play the social end, where, I think it was mainly Brittany that was really trying to shut down her social end of the game. And I don't think she deserved that.
I agree.
She's still playing the game. Like, it's not just about competitions. Like, yeah, I'm playing my social game right now. I am talking about this right now. That's why we're all out here and we're drinking and we're partying and we're communing. So she hasn't always been treated right, but unfortunately, you kind of have to expect that as an Olympian, not even a former Olympian, if you didn't win, they're gonna want you to go in.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's kind of fair.
No, I agree. This season has felt so cliquey to me. I mean, this Batchy crew feels like that mean group in high school to me a little bit. Like,
yeah. I'm not saying they're nice people. Then they're definitely not. they're kind of like icky. They're kind of icky. Except Connor is aligned with them, and I don't really feel icky about him. I think he's way too cocky. But I don't know. I think he's playing the game very well. I kind of like Connor.
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree with you, and I think it's funny because, like I said, like,
he's
earlier,
not batchy, but he is batchy, kind of.
Right, he's not batchy, but he's a number for them. Yeah. And like, it's interesting because I do wish that maybe things had gone a little differently at certain points in the game, and maybe some of these non-batchy people had teamed up, because it just feels like there's so many batchy people in there. It feels like there's so many of them, and people like Troy, who's from, Australian Ninja Warrior, right? And people like Marley, who's a Big Brother person, somebody like Connor, who's from MasterChef, like they all seem to kind of just do what the Batchy crew wanted. And I feel like you could have had a really good competitive other side of the house, and no one really ever did that. And I feel like everybody, it felt like at one point, was calling Connor, weak and shady and all this. And it felt like he just became a number for the Batchy side of the house. And it feels like some of those people were saying those things about Connor too, that he was weak and all that. But he just kind of chose that side of the house. And it just kind of makes me disappointed because it feels like we could have had a very different sort of season had things gone a little differently, maybe.
Well, that's also because the numbers were skewed to begin with. There were just so many of them cast to begin with. That wasn't all like their fault.
Right.
Yeah, like this wasn't really cast correctly. Why did you only have one person from Big Brother and like like what is that? Where else were they supposed to go? One.
And we talked about that with the USA too. The only reason that it didn't happen that way is because the people from BB24 didn't want to work together, but they cast like an overwhelming majority, or not 24, 23. They cast an overwhelming majority of people from BB23.
Right.
It just so happened that they had bad blood, so they didn't want to work together.
The BB23 didn't have like a full majority though, because I feel like BB23, Survivor.
But there were still other Big Brother people that weren't on 23. It was just like there were a lot of people from specifically 23, but they still had Angela, they still had Enzo, they still had people.
Right, well, but
Big Brother did kind of run it.
Well, but that's what I mean though. There were 3 shows in there that had like 7 to 8 people. Amazing Race only had 3, but like the other shows like Survivor, like it felt like there was so many BB23 people in there, but there was really only like 4 or 5. Like even with those other Big Brother people in there, it was still only like a 7 or 8 person group. It was, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like Big Brother had like 15 people and then all the other shows had like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
it was still fairly even. The only show that was really outnumbered was the Amazing Race.
Amazing Race, yeah.
In the Challenge USA, it felt way more balanced to me than this show has felt, than Challenge Australia has felt. But let's move into the elimination. So Kiki and Connor as the last place team were automatically in. We knew it already, but Kieran and Brookby choose Marley and Emily as their opponents, and this was an elimination that we are familiar with. This was called You Move, I Move.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
Yeah. This is what this looked like. So each team would have this big maze. There were 5 balls in the center of the maze, and then you can see each partner had to be on this sort of like skateboard, surfboard looking thing. And they each controlled they each controlled how the board moved, the maze moved in a different way, and they had to work together, communicate, and get their 5 balls from the center into this small hole to free them from the maze and put them into this holder, as Brian E was saying. Now this elimination we just saw on the Challenge 38. This was the very first elimination. Devin and Tori took out Kayla and Sam in the very first elimination of Ride or Dies. So we were familiar with this one. I like this one a lot. And it looked like it might have been fairly close when it started because, well, at first, Marley and Emily, they got the first ball. And it looked like, okay, they're communicating pretty well. And then they just never really did anything else after that.
No.
Yeah, from there, Connor and Kiki, they got all their balls pretty quickly, and unfortunately, Emily and Marley were eliminated. And my first thought was, well, now it's Grant against everyone else. That was the very first thought that I had. But I'm super disappointed to see Emily and Marley go. I really like both of them a lot.
Emily, from the moment that we started looking up these people, was like my pick to win it all. So I was really bummed to see her go.
Yeah. I was bummed to see her go too. I was very bummed to see Marley go just because like he would not have been down there had not been for the fact that he was, teamed up with her. But I was happy that Grant is alone. I just don't like Grant. So I'm kind of happy that he's by himself. I just wish that Emily wasn't with him. I wish that we didn't take her going out for him to be isolated. But I am happy that he's on an island. Good. Since he thinks he's so superior.
No, I agree. I hear what you're saying. I agree. The only thing, because I really didn't love Grant from the beginning of the season either. And I always thought the whole thing between him and Cyril, I'm already forgetting how to say her name. Is it Cyril?
Cyril, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the whole thing with him being like good friends with her partner outside of the house.
Yes.
But him like very willing, just being super willing right off the bat to like throw her name in, I thought was weird.
From the get, yeah.
From there, I thought it was kind of strange. But the only reason that I didn't like love to see him now being the only one was because, again, just for the simple fact that like, all right, well now it's just a game of the Batchies. Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, but good. Get rid of him, and then we can really get into it. Let's see what's going on. Out. Yeah, Let's get to it.
Yeah. All right.
But it looks like this
totally
game's gonna wrap up too fast,
Yeah.
It's almost like that period in Big Brother where you're like, all right, let's just let the alliance steamroll. Fine. In 2 weeks,
right.
We get to have our fun.
And then it's the double eviction, so it doesn't really be fun.
Yes. Right, that's how it feels like we're gearing up to here.
Yeah,
definitely. So now after this elimination ends, Brian, he tells us that we've actually reached a point where it is mathematically impossible for the algorithm to give a new partner to each person. So at least most of the pairs will be repeats. And the pairs that we get, and I will go through them this time. I haven't been doing it because there were just too many people, but we're getting down to the point where there's not so many. So the first pair that comes up is Grant and Megan. And I immediately said, bad news for Megan. Yeah. The next pair was Conrad and Kiki. Then we had Kieran and Brittany, Connor and Brooke B, and finally Troy and Brooke J. And that was another team that I immediately said they could be in trouble because neither one of them is a Batchy person. They may have been working with the Batchy Alliance, but they're not actually part of the Batchy crew. So the these two new teams right off the bat that stood out to me were Grant and Megan and Troy and Brooke J. And that was the last note that I had for episode 7. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to say or add before we move into episode 8 of the Challenge Australia?
I don't think so.
No. Just after that elimination, where are we with our draft picks?
Let's break that down.
After the first elimination?
Yeah. After our Instagram random draw. How we doing?
So after the first elimination, I still have 4 left.
4 left.
John also still has 4 left.
Wow.
And Kyle has 2 left.
Ooh, I'm really sorry.
That's moving into the second.
Yeah, who do I have? Who are my people?
Brooke J and Grant.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, are we sure we want to do this now or do we want to wait till later?
All right.
Man.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Hey, listen. All right. We'll get there. All right. All right. So, episode 8. Let's get into it. So the challengers return to the house from the elimination we just spoke of, and we're down to our final 10. Only 5 pairs left in there. And see, this is, you're right, Kyle, because this is where it does start to get interesting, because obviously Grant is public enemy number 1, right? He's the number 1 target in there. But at this point, he is now paired with Megan, who is a very key member of this Batchy crew. Megan. Everybody in the Batchy crew loves her. So, which also does help Grant in a way, because, the big thing for them is just don't come in last, right? Don't come in last in the daily competition, and Grant might have a chance to survive another round here, right? But that's all I really have, actually, before we even get into this daily challenge. Do you guys have anything you want to say before we get into this? Okay. So now this one was called Frozen Senseless. Okay, you ready, Kyle? So we have a big field here. At one end of the field is a black box. And this box has a series of 3D symbols, okay? On the other end of the field are the corresponding symbols on a solving table, as Bryony called it. Between these two stations here, the solving table and the black box, there is a giant barrier. Now, these pairs would have to run back and forth, and they would actually have to dig their way underneath this barrier to, kind of go back and forth. And they would have to stay in their corresponding lanes, to solve their puzzle and all that. Now, here's the thing here. So they were going to have to replicate this puzzle that was in the black box, right? The person that's at the black box has to feel around using only their hands. They can't see anything. They have to try to feel these shapes, these puzzle pieces. And then now they're going to have to try to describe this to their partner on the other end of the field who's at the solving table. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Now, in order to communicate, they're going to have to meet in the middle of this field and get into an ice bath, okay? They have to be in a freezing cold ice bath, and that is the only time that they're actually allowed to sort of communicate with each other. And the person that's feeling around, the pieces in the black box, they can describe what they're feeling. The person that's at the solving table can describe what they're seeing. It was kind of funny to, especially the first go at this, because I think it was Brooke J being like, oh yeah, I think this feels like a flower, and this feels like this. Meanwhile, all the shapes were like arrows, like X's.
Yep.
And I was like, this is not good. Yeah. I'm like, they are not gonna win this,
right?
Yeah.
And her partner Troy, in one of his little confessionals, was like, I didn't see any flowers over there.
I have seen no flower. What do you mean?
This was really fun. But so obviously, this is how the whole sort of challenge went. The first team to solve their puzzle wins. The last place team goes straight to elimination. So this was fun to watch. It was pretty straightforward, though, based on what I just explained. Do you guys have any thoughts on this before we kind of just get into the winner of this challenge?
I mean, none, but besides the fact that it just looked miserable.
You wouldn't have liked this, you think? You wouldn't have fun with this?
No.
No.
It was fun to watch, though. I enjoyed watching it, but I would not have liked this. I don't want to get in the ice water.
No, ice bath? Absolutely not. No.
That's kind of nice. It can be nice.
No.
Wow.
Sorry,
all right.
No.
I'm just saying, don't knock it till you try it, And so here, the winner of this daily challenge, we were just making fun of Brooke J for her describing of the puzzle pieces of being flowers. Troy and Brooke J end up winning this whole thing.
Yeah, they do.
And this was interesting because this was actually their second daily challenge win together.
Yeah.
On this season.
They're second together. Troy's fourth. He has won 4 challenges.
He's a beast.
That is crazy.
Which, it's funny because he's kind of been working, I guess, with the Batchy crew, but he could be the person that they should have been targeting all along, right? I mean, he's clearly the strongest one in there. They've been so, the Batchy crew has been so focused on taking out this other side that consisted of, Ryan and Sugar and Emily and Grant. And I don't even remember who else was on that side because it feels like it's been so long since they were in the game. But maybe they should have been looking at Troy. But
absolutely, they should have been looking at Troy.
Yeah. And
at this point now, Ninja Warrior. How is he not a target?
Multiple times.
Yeah. Absolute beast. And Grant and Megan, the one thing that they couldn't do, they ended up doing.
They did.
They came in last place.
Impossible.
Meaning they would go straight to elimination. So. Troy and Brooke, they meet with Grant and Megan. And Grant and Megan at this point say that they don't have a preference on who they want to go against. And it makes sense for both of them, but for very different reasons. Grant is totally alone. He's like, why do I care who I go against? It doesn't matter. Especially because the two opponents, I mean, Brooke J made it pretty known that she did not want to pick Connor and Brooke B. And Troy was kind of on the same page with that, which meant the only 2 teams that they could pick to go against Grant and Megan would be that Kieran and Brittany or Conrad and Kiki. And I know that, for Grant, it's like, listen, Kieran and Conrad are pretty even. They're both good competitors. Why do I care? I don't have a preference between either of those. And then for Megan, she's friends with both Brooke B and Kiki. So, she's been working with both of them. How is she supposed to pick between either of them? So it really was not tough for them. They just kind of said, put in whoever you want to put in. The real difficulty here was Brooke J and Troy having a lot of trouble deciding who to put in. And I mean, a lot of trouble. We heard a lot of talk of my heart's telling me this, but my head is telling me that. Mm-hmm. And they went back and forth. Did you like in the interrogation room at one point? I think it was Brooke B, right? Brooke J, I mean, was like, all right, at the same time, let's just say who we're thinking. Yep. 1, 2, 3, totally different people. Yep. And then like a few minutes later, like they had been talking to people and then they checked in again, like, let's talk how we made up our mind. And now they had both switched who they decided. They were still on the opposite end, but had just completely switched who they wanted. And it seemed like people were getting pretty annoyed. It's like, just make up your mind. But we would not find out their choice until we got to elimination. Now, there was one thing. I know we don't always love to talk about club night, but there was a comment here that Brooke J made that just made me chuckle a little bit. And I want to get your thoughts on this, because we know, as we said, this is Brooke J and Troy's second win already together this season. So Brooke J makes a comment that the Batchy crew has dominated. So it's nice to see them squirm, right? Because Megan's already going in. That's one of their people. And then whoever Troy and Brooke J pick, it's going to be another, set of Batchy crew people. Right. So now they're squirming. The Batchy crew is, for the first time, right, it feels like they're a little bit nervous about what might happen. And Brooke J says that she's happy to be the one to take the first shot at them. And I thought to myself, there's 10 people left in there. You're excited to take the first shot at the Batchy crew now? You've already had power with Troy. Neither of you are in the Batchy crew. You already could have done this. And now you're at a point where even if you get a couple of them out, you're still at the bottom no matter what.
Right.
It's why wouldn't you have done this weeks ago when there were still people in there that would have worked with you against this Batchy crew that has just become so dominant that now there's no way to stop them? Troy, I think, still has a chance because he's such a good competitor, but like at this point, the final is going to be pretty much all Batchy people. That comment just kind of got to me. Like, what did you think about that? Any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, no, not really. It's just definitely too late. All you can do is now hope for like a major twist or something that can maybe kind of keep you in. Or you literally just have to keep winning.
Yeah.
Or you're going to go out like Marley style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess, they're just lucky that they're so close to the final. Because if you're in the final, you've got a shot. But it's just funny to hear Brooke J say pretty much on the eve of the final, like, oh, I'm happy to take the first shot at this giant alliance that's been dominating the house all season. It's like, well, it's about time. But anyway, this takes us to our next elimination, which was called In a Roll. Troy and Brooke J finally make up their minds, and they decide that it's going to be Kieran and Brittany that go up against Grant and Megan in this elimination. Another one that we've seen. There's another elimination that we've seen. I don't remember exactly when we saw this, though. Do you guys remember this? I didn't come to my mind immediately where it was, if it was Challenge USA or Challenge 38.
I don't remember.
I feel it was a while ago.
But I know we've seen this. And basically down in the arena, there were these two big hamster wheels, right? These giant steel wheels. In the middle of them, connected to them, was a 100-meter long rope. And also attached to this was a giant heavy ball that was right directly in the middle of the two wheels. Now, each team would have to get into their hamster wheel and would have to run as fast as they could to get this thing moving, to pull the rope to their side, and then drag this heavy ball that was in the middle onto their platform. Now, this would be a best of 3. So you needed to win 2 out of 3 to win this elimination. Each team had a pretty different strategy, right? Kieran and Brittany was complaining about her leg, I think, but Kieran and Brittany's strategy was to work together and move this wheel as much as possible, and as fast as possible. Grant and Megan's strategy, or at least Grant's strategy, was to have Megan help him get the wheel going And then he would just run by himself, and she would literally lift herself off the ground and hold her legs up so that Grant could run. And I immediately said, well, they're going to lose.
Boo! Tomato, 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 tomato. What the hell was that? What was that?
I don't know.
Like, aside
tomato,
from the fact
tomato,
that,
tomato, tomato.
like, I'm sorry. Aside from the fact that it's just a bad strategy, I'll be damned if I am competing in a show and this competition is going to make the difference between whether I go home or continue competing, and someone else says, don't play, I'll do it all myself. Absolutely not. I am not putting my fate in this game into somebody else's hands. I am playing the elimination.
Totally. No, totally.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. And this best of 3 was over in 2 rounds because Kieran and Brittany got both of the first 2 points. So they win. Grant and Megan are eliminated. And that whole side of the house that the Batchy crew was gunning for is out. So now people like Troy, Brooke J, Connor, they're pretty much the only people in there that aren't Batchy people. And sure, they've been working with the Batchy Alliance, but you know, I guess we'll see what happens here. It's gonna be interesting. But I mean, from what we saw on this next on, it looks like we're going into this 2-hour season finale event now. What anything in particular you guys are looking forward to here, or for this finale?
No, I'm just wondering how this is going to be laid out. Like they say it's a 2-hour finale. Are we getting one like regular episode and then a 2-hour? So are we looking at 3 hours of the challenge, Australia? Like, is that how this is going to go?
I feel like
been
8
2
people,
episodes.
I feel like Challenge USA had an 8-person final. So I feel like it's just going to be 2 hours of the final. Right? Assuming the formatting is the same?
That's the impression that I got.
Episode 8, though. That's what's. I got.
Oh, it's not 1 2-hour episode. There's 2-hour episodes. Is what you're saying?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
It could be a 2-hour. Yeah.
That's what I don't understand.
It could be a 2-hour finale that's broken up into 2 episodes. Maybe maybe the first hour, is the first portion, and we get to a nighttime portion of the final, and it's the end of that episode.
How USA was laid out. That was 2 episodes, right? I think.
I honestly don't remember, to be honest.
I feel like it was 2 episodes.
It could have been.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I'm curious about.
Yeah. But that's what we got on the horizon,
When you're going into a final with this many people, it's almost like, we'll just see what these things are and how they perform. It's kind of hard to comment on because anyone can go out for any different reason.
Right, and that was the thing. It was the same amount of people that were in Challenge USA, but people were getting picked off one by one because Enzo didn't want to swim, and this one didn't. Like, there were just people getting picked off so early.
Right, and it's like, I wonder how things would have gone if certain things weren't where they were. Right. Enzo not wanting to swim, I don't think you could have done much about that. Could
Angela with the shovel, like all of that shit.
Yeah, people dropping out of that puzzle at the end.
Yeah.
A lot of them gave up because it was so cold. If you had begun with a puzzle, I don't know that people would have given up if because it was warmer. So it all depends on where these things are placed. It's so hard to comment when you're going, and we don't know any of these people. So
yeah.
Well, maybe
to see what this final is, and I'm curious to see how they handle it.
I mean, I don't know how much earlier Challenge USA happened than Challenge Australia, but like I would hope that after they saw what happened in USA, they would reformat things a little bit for this final. But I also don't know if they were happening simultaneously or not.
Or we might see in Australia here the way that the USA final was supposed to go.
Gone. Yeah.
And maybe it'll, we'll see like, oh, this final actually isn't so bad. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? At least I hope. Because then am I totally wrong? Wasn't there a part of that, like, because of what happened, like between Enzo dropping out and then his partner being out and then Angela like quitting in the middle of the night? Like, wasn't there a leg of this where like each remaining player had to compete by themselves while everybody else was competing in pairs? Like, it was like, and depending on the leg.
Yeah, there was one person had to
Right.
Like for every leg, one person was doing it by themselves when everyone else was in pairs, and they rotated who that one person was.
Right. And it was like, depending on the leg, depending on the difficulty of the leg, that could make it a huge disadvantage for you. Like if you got a leg that was, fairly easy that you got to do by yourself, well, that was a huge benefit to you. You know, it's like
that was why Angela quit, because she was by herself for the shoveling.
That's right. That's right. So maybe we'll get the final we were supposed to get in USA, but we'll get it here in Australia, and maybe it'll be pretty good. Who knows?
Yeah. It does look like there are 2 episodes, Monday and Tuesday, both for an hour.
All right.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am too.
All right.
Well, that's all I got for episodes 7 and 8 of the Challenge Australia. You guys have any other thoughts? Anything for the benefit of the community?
No. Why'd you not?
Kyle's poor draft team.
Yeah.
And so now that Grant and Megan are out,
I got torn through.
Who had? So we knew Kyle had Grant. Who had Megan?
You did.
I did. So you now have 4.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle has 1.
Kyle's got Brooke J.
Okay.
Australian Survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got Kiki, Kieran, and Brittany left over so far.
Kiki, Kieran, and Brittany. Wow. All right. I guess we'll see. See what happens. Wow. So you've only lost 3 people all season, Gina?
Uh-huh. And I have, hold on, 11 daily challenge wins.
See, it really all came down to whoever had the luck in that Instagram grid of getting more batchy people. That's really what it came down to.
Truly, yeah.
I got demolished. My poor team. My sweet Brooke J. Hang on, baby.
She might win. You don't know.
Yeah, what if she wins? Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be awesome. Hey, I like Brooke J, and I know her from Australian Survivors. I would like to see her win.
The thing is, she just needs to get to this final, depending on how this is laid out, because I feel like some of these Bachelor people are going to have a rough go. Mm-hmm. I'm really not expecting Kiki to be long for this game now. Like, this is... Her road is going to end. Her back is not... If her back is as bad as she's been acting like it is, she's going to have a rough time in the final, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We don't know the rest of these girls, so I don't want to make comments. But but Brooke J, she is from Australian Survivor. She's a tough lady.
That's right.
She's tough.
Absolutely.
Okay, so she's not from,
and she's won 2 dailies. So I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So she's not.
She's no slouch.
Yeah. No. She's no couch potato.
That's right.
All right. So look out. Look out. Kyle Petty is still in the game. Brooke J.
He's still got a horse in this race.
Brooke J for the win. Silly.
Oh man. All right. Well, I guess that's it. So what do we got coming up? Well, if you're watching, Survivor 43 or The Amazing Race, we'll be wrapping up The Amazing Race this coming Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we'll be talking Survivor at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the following Thursday, we'll be talking Challenge 38, Ride or Dies at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll be talking Challenge Australia season finale, right? At 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's wild. This season has just flown by. So that's what we have coming up. If you want to check us out on the socials, you can do so at StratChatPod. That's on Twitter, on Instagram, or check out our website, StratChatPod.com. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. If you've been watching, listening, and we'll see you soon. Have a great night.